Every great transformation begins within, not in the world of action, not in the realm of circumstance, but in the quiet chambers of your mind where thought first takes shape. You were never meant to wait for miracles. You were meant to magnetize them. You are not separate from the forces that shape your reality. You are the center of them. This is not philosophy. It is law. And this law responds not to your words, but to your state of being. When you act as if you are a magnet to miracles, you align with the unseen currents that bring them into form. You are not begging for blessings. You are becoming the version of yourself for whom the blessing is natural. Today, let us explore not just how to think about miracles, but how to embody the frequency of miracles, how to live in the assumption that what you desire is already yours, and how that internal acceptance draws the outer world into alignment. This is not wishful thinking. This is conscious creation, and it begins the moment you dare to believe differently. Imagination is the foundation of all creation. Long before anything takes form in the visible world, it must first be conceived in the invisible realm of thought. The world you experience is nothing more than the echo of your inner world, shaped moment by the images you dare to hold as real. When you understand this, you stop waiting for miracles and begin cultivating them internally, deliberately, and faithfully. Every structure ever built, every invention ever crafted, every healing ever witnessed, was once an intangible image in the mind of someone who believed. Imagination is not mere daydreaming. It is the act of creation itself. It is the workshop of the soul, the sacred canvas where you rehearse and embody the life you wish to live. The greatest error people make is treating imagination as a pastime, when in truth it is the first cause of all things. To act as if you're a magnet to miracles is to treat your inner images as facts. It means no longer separating your imagined desires from your present identity. Instead, you enter into them, feel them, and wear them like a garment. You see the end result and remain faithful to it. You don't beg for change. You become the change within. You don't merely hope for the impossible. You imagine it, you assume it, and then you allow the outer world to conform to your new inner state. Imagination must be felt to be effective. Thought alone does not move mountains, but thought felt as real. Thought fused with belief does. When you vividly imagine something with the same emotional certainty as if it had already happened, you trigger a chain reaction. Your actions shift, your energy shifts, and the world around you begins to mirror the state you have embodied. This is not magic, it is law. To imagine is to enter a sacred partnership with life. Life does not discriminate between real and imagined, between past and future. It only reflects the dominant impression you carry. And so, if you continue to imagine from a place of lack, limitation, or disbelief, you will reinforce those very conditions. But when you dare to imagine from fullness, from possibility, from completion, you open the gates to the miraculous. The key is constancy. You cannot imagine abundance once and return to thoughts of struggle. You must choose again and again to dwell in the inner world that matches the life you wish to experience. This is the discipline of conscious creation. To act as if you are a magnet to miracles is to honor imagination as the spiritual blueprint of all outcomes. And once you do, the extraordinary begins to unfold, not because it was sent to you, but because it was already within you, waiting to be claimed. Faith is not mere hope. It is not passive wishing or the silent desire that something might eventually happen. Faith is assumption in action. It is the deliberate mental positioning where you move beyond doubt and behave inwardly as though your desire is already fulfilled. To act as if you're a magnet to miracles is to live in the inner certainty that what you have imagined is not only possible, but inevitable. The mistake many make is thinking that faith is only needed in moments of crisis. But true faith is not circumstantial. It is a state of consciousness, a way of perceiving reality that transforms every moment into sacred ground. It is not a plea, it is a possession. When you assume something as already true in your inner world, regardless of outer appearances, you plant the seed of its manifestation. The act of assuming is the act of claiming. Living as if does not mean pretending. It means aligning yourself with the version of you who already has what you desire. It means walking, speaking, thinking, and feeling from the reality you have internally accepted. Faith, then, is not something you wait to feel. It is something you practice. It is active, not passive. It is a daily decision to return to your assumption, even when the senses scream the opposite. This is not about ignoring reality, but about giving greater weight to your inner conviction than to the evidence of the world. The external world is delayed. It lags behind consciousness. What you hold true in imagination today becomes your experience tomorrow. So, if you persist in the assumption of your desire fulfilled, the outer must eventually yield to it. It is law. Faith also neutralizes fear. Fear is belief in the unwanted. But when you assume the state of already having, already being, already living the miracle, fear dissolves because there is nothing left to chase. You begin to radiate confidence, not from ego, but from inner alignment. You're not hoping for change. You are embodying the change, and the world responds accordingly. To act as if you're a magnet to miracles is to no longer rely on visible facts for assurance. It is to let your inner knowing become more real to you than your outer conditions. It is to walk by vision, not by sight, and with practice that assumption becomes automatic. You no longer fight for belief, you dwell in it. This is the secret of transformation, to believe it so deeply within that the world has no choice but to follow. You do not receive what you want, you receive what you assume. When that assumption is steady and felt as true, miracles are no longer rare. They become your rhythm, they become your way of life. The outer world is not the cause of your inner state. It is the reflection of it. What you see, hear, touch, and experience is the visible echo of the invisible patterns you hold in consciousness. You are not at the mercy of chance or circumstance. You are the one shaping it all from within. Your inner reality, your thoughts, your assumptions, your persistent self, is the silent author of your outer experience. Everything begins within. If you consistently believe you are unlucky, unwanted, or unworthy, life will mirror that belief back to you in the form of missed opportunities, difficult relationships, or repeated struggles. But when you shift your inner state and begin to see yourself as chosen, capable, and complete, the outer world reorganizes itself to reflect that new truth. This is not philosophy. It is the divine mechanism through which reality is shaped. The world is your mirror, and it does not lie. If something in your experience feels limiting, do not rush to blame the world or others. Instead, ask yourself, what inner belief am I holding that allows this to continue? What assumption have I accepted without question? The moment you change the inner cause, the outer effect begins to transform. You are not powerless. You are not waiting for the world to give you permission to thrive. You are the operant power. This means nothing changes unless you change. No one else can think for you, imagine for you, or assume for you. The law is impersonal. It simply reflects your dominant state. If you wish to see miracles, you must live from the consciousness that expects them. To act as if you are a magnet to miracles is to place your attention not on what is lacking, but on what is unfolding. It is to mentally inhabit the version of reality where things work out for you, where beauty finds you, where the improbable becomes normal. The more real you make that inner reality, the more naturally the outer begins to bend in response. It has no choice. It is your shadow. When you realize the creative power of your inner world, you stop trying to force change from the outside. You stop manipulating circumstances or struggling for control. Instead, you go within, align your thoughts with your desired end, and persist in that feeling until it hardens into fact. The world then meets you at the level of your conviction. This is the path of mastery, to no longer react blindly to what you see, but to respond deliberately from the truth you've chosen to internalize. The moment you accept responsibility for your inner state, you claim the authority to transform your world. And once you do, life becomes less of a struggle and more of a reflection, an ever-changing canvas painted by the hand of your own consciousness. Your self-concept is the silent architect of your life. It defines the limits of what you allow yourself to receive, experience, and become. You may believe that you attract what you want, but the truth is far more precise. You attract what you are. Not what you claim in passing, but what you consistently accept as true about yourself. If you wish to be a magnet to miracles, then your identity must reflect someone who already lives in the realm of the miraculous. Every thought you think about yourself, every emotional response you repeat, every story you tell about who you are weaves itself into your self-concept. And that concept becomes your set point, your default energetic broadcast. From that point, all things are drawn or repelled. It is not effort, but alignment that determines manifestation. A person who sees themselves as unworthy cannot consistently attract blessings. Why? Because miracles are not compatible with an identity that expects lack, rejection, or limitation. This is not about pretending or creating a mask. It is about the conscious revision of your inner identity, shaping it into one that matches the life you desire to live. If you desire love, become someone who is loved. If you seek abundance, identify as someone who is abundant. The world responds not to what you try to prove, but to what you silently assume to be true about yourself. That assumption becomes magnetic. The power lies in knowing that you can change your self-concept at any moment. You are never stuck. You are not bound by the past. You are not condemned to repeat old patterns unless you choose to identify with them. Through focused imagination and inner conviction, you can begin to embody the version of yourself who naturally receives what you once thought was out of reach. Miracles begin to flow to the person who expects them, not as a surprise, but as a normal reflection of their identity. To act as if you're a magnet to miracles is to stand firm in the awareness that your self-concept is the doorway through which all blessings must pass. It means choosing daily to embody the inner qualities of the person who already has the thing you desire. Confidence, peace, gratitude, expectation, these are not just feelings, they are frequencies, and they shape your energetic field. When you shift your self-concept, you shift your vibration. And when you shift your vibration, the world cannot help but shift in response. The new opportunities, the unexpected breakthroughs, the quiet alignment of details, all flow from the identity you hold. You do not chase miracles. You become the person for whom miracles are normal. And that shift begins not in the outer world, but in the silence of your own self-definition. To live in the end is to mentally and emotionally dwell in the state where your desire has already been fulfilled. It is not about waiting and wishing. It is about assuming the position of completion, This practice is not rooted in fantasy but in spiritual law. When you fully accept in your imagination and feeling that your miracle has already occurred, you begin to think, feel, and act from that state. And because consciousness is the only true cause, the outer world must eventually reorganize itself to reflect that inner conviction. Living in the end does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing which reality you give authority to, the one that exists in your outer environment, or the one you have accepted within. The senses may show you lack, delay, or contradiction, but you do not give power to them. You remain loyal to the unseen. You walk mentally in the outcome you desire, knowing that imagination, when felt as real, is the blueprint from which all things are made. This is the secret of true creation, the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is not about affirming endlessly or striving for change, but about being changed internally by the assumption that the change has already occurred. When you feel rich even while lacking money, you are living in the end. When you feel loved even before the relationship arrives, you are living in the end. You are not trying to become, you are assuming that you already are. The moment you dwell in the state of fulfillment, you begin to attract everything necessary for that assumption to become fact. People, events, and ideas align, not because you force them to, but because your inner world now matches the frequency of that experience. The end becomes the cause, not the result, and this inner causation shortens the time between desire and manifestation. What often delays the miracle is not a lack of worthiness or timing, but the inability to remain in the end. Most people oscillate. They imagine the best, but then fall back into worry, doubt, or observation of current facts. This weakens the signal, but when you remain fixed in your assumption, even when nothing seems to change, you are creating movement on levels unseen. The delay is not denial, it is gestation. To live in the end is an act of faith, of inner boldness. It means seeing with the eyes of the Spirit, not the eyes of the flesh. It means feeling secure before the money arrives, feeling whole before the healing shows, feeling grateful before the gift appears. This is the creative stance. This is the posture of power. When you consistently live from the end, you collapse resistance and invite the miracle to reveal itself, not as a favor, but as a natural reflection of your state. And in time, what you once imagined becomes the world you live in effortlessly, faithfully, and fully. Persistence is the golden thread that binds imagination to manifestation. One moment of belief, one inspired visualization, or one emotional alignment is not enough to sustain the unfolding of a miracle. The creative power of your consciousness responds not to flashes of excitement, but to the steady, repeated assumption of your desire fulfilled. It is through persistence that the invisible becomes visible, and what was once hoped for becomes lived reality. To persist is not to struggle. It is not the effort of force, but the quiet strength of consistency. It means returning again and again to the state of the wish fulfilled, regardless of how long the outer world seems unchanged. The world may appear stubborn, circumstances may seem fixed, but your inner conviction must remain firm. You do not waver because the senses show no proof. You remain faithful because you understand that the outer is always a delayed reflection of the inner. Persistence trains the subconscious mind. Each time you dwell in the feeling of your fulfilled desire, you impress that state deeper into your inner being. Eventually, it becomes natural. It becomes who you are, and once it is natural, the world begins to yield. The shift in your consciousness sets in motion forces and patterns far beyond what the eyes can see. You may not know how it will come, but if you persist in the assumption that it has come, the outer will conform. This is where many falter. They allow time to discourage them. They look at the calendar, the bank account, the silence from others, and they abandon the inner state. But those who understand the law know that time is not the master, consciousness is. What you sustain inwardly with faith and repetition must eventually harden into fact. Delay is not denial. It is simply the unfolding of invisible processes that are aligning with your new state. To act as if you're a magnet to miracles means you keep returning to that inner truth, even when the world tempts you to forget. You remind yourself daily, even hourly, that you are already the one who has received. You imagine with depth, you feel with clarity, you assume with certainty, and when doubt creeps in, you return, not in panic, but with calm intention. Persistence also strengthens belief. The more you dwell in your new state, the less real the old state feels. What once seemed like an impossible dream becomes a normal part of your inner landscape, and as within, so without. Life bends to meet the identity you have rehearsed, not instantly, but inevitably. The miracle is not outside of you, waiting to be earned. It is inside you, waiting to be accepted. And persistence is the bridge between your current world and the one you've claimed in consciousness. Remain faithful to that vision. Stand still in that inner knowing. The outer will come, not because you forced it, but because you never stopped believing it was already yours. You are not a passive observer in this life. You are the silent author of it. Every miracle you seek is already yours in potential, waiting for your inner agreement, waiting for your conscious permission to come forth. The power is not in the outer world. It has never been. The power has always been within you, in your imagination, your faith, your assumptions, and your persistent state of being. To act as if you are a magnet to miracles is not arrogance, nor is it delusion. It is the spiritual maturity to know that reality responds to consciousness. It is the understanding that you do not need to beg for change. You need only to become the person for whom that change is inevitable. That becoming begins with your inner world, your thoughts, your feelings, your identity, your willingness to dwell in the end, to believe without seeing, and to persist even when nothing appears to be moving. Miracles are not rare. They are natural to the one who expects them, who lives in harmony with them, who assumes them to be part of their ordinary experience. You are not waiting on life. Life is waiting on you, waiting on your inner decision to no longer be the one who hopes, but the one who knows, the one who carries the frequency of fulfillment, the confidence of completion, the quiet certainty that what is imagined and believed will be received. From this moment on, choose to live as if your miracles are already on their way, because they are. Speak as one who is blessed, walk as one who is chosen, feel as one who is already living the answered prayer. When you do, you will see the unseen begin to form. You will witness life rise to meet your vision, and the miracles you once chased will begin to find their way to you, because now you are the magnet.